In the bustling halls of Silicon Valley General Hospital, the morning shift had barely begun when an unusual scene unfolded at the hospital's main entrance. A tall man in worn jeans, a plain black t-shirt, and a bright red MAGA hat walked through the sliding glass doors, heading straight to the coffee cart in the lobby. The hat stood out starkly against the sterile white walls and blue-scrubbed hospital staff hurrying past. The man kept his head down, fumbling with his phone while waiting in line. A few visitors gave him curious glances, but most were too preoccupied with their own concerns to pay much attention. That is, until hospital administrator Richard Thompson spotted him from across the lobby. Thompson, who had built his reputation on maintaining a strictly professional environment, felt his blood pressure rise at the sight of the political statement perched atop the stranger's head. He'd recently implemented a new policy banning political attire of any kind within hospital premises, aiming to create what he called a neutral healing environment. Without hesitation, Thompson marched across the lobby, his polished shoes clicking against the tile floor. "Sir," he called out, his voice carrying the weight of authority, "I need to speak with you about our dress code policy." The man in the MAGA hat turned around slowly, coffee cup in hand. His eyes met Thompson's with an unexpected intensity. "Is there a problem?" he asked quietly. "Yes, there is," Thompson replied, straightening his tie. "We have a strict policy against political attire in this facility. I'm going to have to ask you to remove the hat or leave the premises immediately." A small crowd had begun to gather, their phones discreetly pointed toward the unfolding scene. The man in the hat took a slow sip of his coffee, his expression unreadable. "I'm here to inspect the facility," he said simply. Thompson's face reddened. "Inspect? I wasn't notified of any inspection today. Who exactly are you?" "I purchased this hospital last week," the man replied, his voice remaining remarkably calm. "I'm Elon Musk." The coffee cup Thompson had been holding slipped from his fingers, splashing hot liquid across the pristine floor. The crowd's whispers grew louder, and several phones started recording openly now. That's impossible," Thompson stammered, his confidence evaporating. "We would have been informed." "Check your email," Musk suggested, pulling out his own phone and showing Thompson a chain of correspondence that had apparently been sitting unread in the administrator's inbox for days. "The acquisition was finalized on Tuesday. I like to visit my new facilities unannounced. Gives me a better sense of how things really run." The color drained from Thompson's face as he scrolled through the emails on his own device, confirming what the man before him had just said. The hospital had indeed been purchased by one of Musk's holding companies, and he had completely missed the notification. News of the encounter spread through the hospital like wildfire. Nurses whispered to doctors, who whispered to technicians, who texted their colleagues. Within an hour, the story had reached every corner of the facility. The man who'd been nearly thrown out for wearing a MAGA hat was none other than their new owner. Thompson retreated to his office, his hands shaking as he closed the door behind him. He'd just tried to eject the world's richest man from his own hospital. The security cameras had caught everything, and he could already imagine the social media storm brewing. Meanwhile, Musk continued his tour of the facility, stopping to chat with surprised staff members and taking notes on his phone. He showed particular interest in the emergency department's workflow and the hospital's technology infrastructure. The incident sparked intense discussions throughout the hospital. Some staff members defended Thompson's commitment to maintaining a professional environment, while others argued that the policy itself might have gone too far. The debate spread beyond the hospital walls as video clips of the encounter began circulating online. Local news vans started appearing outside the hospital by early afternoon. Reporters hoped to catch a glimpse of either Musk or Thompson, but both men had moved their discussion behind closed doors. The meeting lasted for hours, during which the hospital staff could only speculate about what was being decided. As the day wore on, the story grew more complex. It emerged that the hospital's acquisition was part of a larger initiative to revolutionize healthcare delivery using advanced technology and artificial intelligence. The MAGA Hat incident had inadvertently thrust the hospital into the spotlight, making it the unexpected face of this ambitious project. Some employees worried about their jobs, others saw opportunity in the chaos, but everyone agreed on one thing: this would be a day they'd never forget. The simple act of enforcing a dress code policy had unexpectedly pulled back the curtain on major changes coming to their workplace. By evening, the hospital's PR team had their hands full managing interview requests and social media responses. They worked tirelessly to craft a statement that would address the morning's events while maintaining the dignity of all parties involved. The challenge was considerable: how to acknowledge the awkward encounter without undermining Thompson's authority or making light of hospital policies. As the sun set over Silicon Valley General, the staff ending their shifts walked out to find news crews still camped outside, eager for any additional details about the day's events. The story had touched a nerve, highlighting the complex intersection of workplace policies, political expression, and the often unexpected ways these issues can collide in public spaces. Inside his office, Thompson sat alone, staring at his computer screen filled with emails he'd neglected to read. The day's events played on repeat in his mind as he contemplated how quickly life could change. One moment of hasty judgment, one missed email, and suddenly everything was different. He wondered what tomorrow would bring, knowing that whatever happened, Silicon Valley General would never be quite the same. The following morning, Silicon Valley General Hospital hummed with an energy unlike anything it had experienced before. News vans still lined the street outside, their satellite dishes reaching toward the sky like metal sunflowers. Inside, the staff arrived for their shifts with a mixture of excitement and anxiety, wondering what changes their new owner might implement. Thompson had arrived unusually early, his normally pristine suit slightly wrinkled from a sleepless night. He'd spent hours reading through the backlog of emails he'd missed, trying to piece together how such a massive change had slipped past him. The acquisition documents revealed an ambitious plan to transform the hospital into a testing ground for revolutionary medical technologies. At precisely 9 a.m., Elon Musk returned to the hospital, this time wearing a simple blue button-down shirt, no hat in sight. He brought with him a team of tech specialists and medical consultants, each carrying tablets loaded with preliminary plans for the hospital's transformation. The contrast between yesterday's casual appearance and today's business-like approach was striking. The hospital's main conference room, rarely used for anything more exciting than monthly budget meetings, now buzzed with activity. Department heads gathered around the long table, their faces reflecting a mix of curiosity and concern. Musk stood at the front of the room, his enthusiasm evident as he outlined his vision. "Healthcare is ready for disruption," he began, his voice carrying the same intensity that had made his other ventures successful. "This hospital will be our proving ground for combining artificial intelligence with human medical expertise. But first, we need to understand exactly how things work here, from the ground up." As he spoke, several staff members exchanged worried glances. One veteran nurse of 30 years whispered to her colleague, "Does this mean robots will replace us?" The worry spread through the room like a quiet ripple. Musk, catching the concerned murmurs, quickly addressed the elephant in the room. "Let me be clear, our goal isn't to replace medical staff. It's to enhance their capabilities. Imagine AI systems that can detect patterns in patient data that might take humans years to identify. Think about automated systems handling paperwork so you can spend more time with patients." Thompson, seated in the back of the room, found himself nodding despite his lingering embarrassment from yesterday's encounter. The ideas being presented were revolutionary, yet somehow made perfect sense. He began to see how his own rigid adherence to rules might have been holding the hospital back from necessary evolution. Throughout the day, Musk's team spread throughout the hospital, shadowing staff members and documenting every aspect of daily operations. They watched as nurses navigated between patients, observed doctors during their rounds, and noted how the administrative staff handled the constant flow of paperwork. In the emergency department, a young doctor demonstrated their current system for tracking patient wait times. "We do our best," she explained, "but during peak hours, it gets overwhelming." The tech specialist following her typed rapidly on his tablet, already envisioning improvements. By afternoon, the hospital cafeteria had become an impromptu town hall. Staff members on their breaks shared their hopes and fears about the coming changes. A respiratory therapist with 20 years of experience spoke up about his concerns regarding AI diagnosis systems. To everyone's surprise, one of Musk's team members sat down to join the discussion, taking notes and addressing concerns directly. Meanwhile, social media continued to buzz with yesterday's story. Memes of the MAGA Hat incident spread rapidly, but they were increasingly accompanied by serious discussions about the future of healthcare. The hospital's PR team, working closely with Musk's communications staff, managed to shift the narrative from the awkward encounter to the exciting possibilities ahead. Thompson spent most of the day in meetings with the transition team, slowly regaining his confidence as he shared his deep knowledge of the hospital's operations. His embarrassment from the previous day began to fade as he realized his organizational skills would be crucial for implementing the coming changes successfully. As evening approached, Musk gathered the senior staff for a final meeting. The conference room walls were now covered with charts, diagrams, and sticky notes, a physical manifestation of the day's intensive planning. "What we've seen today has convinced me that this hospital is the perfect place to start," he announced. "You have an incredible team here, and together, we're going to revolutionize healthcare." The announcement was met with applause, though some still held reservations. Change, even positive change, never comes easily to established institutions. But there was an undeniable sense of excitement in the air, a feeling that they were about to be part of something historic. As the staff headed home that evening, the news vans began to pack up, but they knew this was just the beginning of the story. Silicon Valley General was about to become the focus of the medical world's attention. The hospital that had nearly thrown out its new owner was now positioned to become a pioneer in medical innovation. Thompson stood at his office window, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. On his desk lay his letter of resignation, carefully typed but unsigned. After today's meetings, he decided to set it aside. Sometimes, he realized, the most professional thing to do was to admit when it's time for change and help guide it rather than resist it. The security guard doing his evening rounds paused at Thompson's door. "Quite a couple of days, sir," he said with a knowing smile. Thompson nodded, managing a small laugh for the first time since the whole incident began. "Indeed," he replied, "and I have a feeling tomorrow will be even more interesting." The third day at Silicon Valley General began with a flurry of activity that made the previous days seem calm by comparison. Moving trucks pulled up to the loading dock before sunrise, carrying the first wave of new technology that would transform the hospital. Staff members arriving for the morning shift gathered in small groups, watching as teams of technicians wheeled in mysterious equipment wrapped in protective padding. The emergency department was chosen as the first area for implementation. By mid-morning, the previously familiar space looked more like a tech startup than a traditional ER. Sleek monitors lined the walls, their screens displaying real-time patient data in crisp, colorful graphics. The old nursing station had been temporarily replaced with what looked like a command center from a sci-fi movie. A young ER doctor stood at the new central hub, her eyes wide as she received training on the advanced diagnostic system. "So you're saying this can analyze symptoms and cross-reference them with millions of cases in seconds?" she asked, her voice a mixture of awe and skepticism. The tech trainer nodded, demonstrating how the AI assistant could help identify patterns that might otherwise take hours to spot. Meanwhile, Thompson had found an unexpected new role in the transformation. His intimate knowledge of hospital operations made him invaluable to the transition team. He spent the morning guiding Musk specialists through the complex web of departmental interactions, explaining how changes in one area could ripple through the entire system. The key is understanding how everything connects, Thompson explained, pointing to a detailed workflow diagram he'd created. You can't just drop new technology into a hospital and expect it to work seamlessly. There's a human element to everything we do here. Musk, who had been quietly observing the morning's activities, approached Thompson during lunch. "You know," he said, pulling up a chair in the cafeteria, "when I first started SpaceX, some of our best innovations came from people who initially resisted change but then embraced it. They understood what needed to be preserved while moving forward." The cafeteria grew quiet as staff members tried to discreetly listen to the conversation between their administrator and their new owner. The tension from the MAGA Hat incident had evolved into something more complex, a shared understanding that sometimes the most unexpected moments can lead to positive change. By afternoon, the first test runs of the new emergency department systems were underway. A simulation team ran through various scenarios, from basic cases to complex emergencies. The AI system performed impressively, but it was the way it integrated with the human staff that truly stood out. During one simulation, a mock patient presented with unusual symptoms. The AI quickly suggested several possible diagnoses, but it was the experienced nurse's intuition that helped narrow down the correct one. "See?" Musk pointed out to the observing staff. "The technology isn't replacing your expertise, it's amplifying it." The day brought its share of challenges too. The new system crashed briefly during a test run, causing momentary panic until a tech specialist quickly resolved the issue. Some older staff members struggled with the touchscreen interfaces, while younger ones adapted quickly and began helping their colleagues. In the pediatric ward, child life specialists raised concerns about how the new technology might affect their young patients. Would the presence of AI and advanced monitoring systems make the hospital feel even more intimidating? The solution came from an unexpected source. One of Musk's designers suggested incorporating playful, child-friendly interfaces for the pediatric floor. As word of the changes spread, medical professionals from other hospitals began showing up unannounced, hoping to catch a glimpse of the future of healthcare. The hospital's security team had to politely turn away several unauthorized visitors, including a couple of tech bloggers trying to pass themselves off as consulting physicians. Late in the afternoon, an actual emergency put the new system to its first real test. A patient arrived with complex symptoms that didn't fit any obvious diagnosis. The AI system quickly analyzed the patient's vital signs and symptoms, suggesting several rare conditions that might have taken doctors hours to consider. The attending physician later admitted that the AI's suggestion had helped them reach the correct diagnosis much faster than usual. Thompson watched all of this from his office, which now served as a temporary command center for coordinating the various implementation teams. The MAGA hat that had caused such chaos just 2 days ago sat on his desk, a gift from Musk, accompanied by a note that read, "Sometimes the best disruptions come in unexpected packages." As the day wound down, the hospital staff gathered for an impromptu celebration in the cafeteria. Someone had ordered pizza for everyone, and the atmosphere was surprisingly festive. Stories were shared about the day's successes and failures, fears were voiced and addressed, and plans were made for the challenges ahead. A veteran nurse who had initially been one of the most vocal skeptics stood up to speak. "I've been here for 25 years, she began, her voice carrying across the quiet room. "I've seen a lot of changes, but nothing like this. I was scared at first, but today I saw something amazing. We're not losing our humanity to technology, we're using technology to be more human, to have more time for actual patient care." Her words seemed to capture the mood perfectly. The fear of change was still there, but it had been transformed into something more like excitement about the possibilities ahead. Even those who had been most resistant to the changes were beginning to see the potential benefits. As the sun set on the third day of Silicon Valley General's transformation, Thompson stood at his familiar window spot, reflecting on how much had changed in just 72 hours. The hospital he'd worked so hard to keep unchanged was now at the forefront of medical innovation, and somehow, it felt exactly right. On his computer, emails were already arriving from other hospital administrators around the country, asking about the changes being implemented. Thompson smiled as he began to compose responses, knowing that what had started with an embarrassing confrontation over a hat was quickly becoming a model for the future of healthcare. By the fourth day, Silicon Valley General had become the center of attention in both the medical and tech worlds. News helicopters circled overhead as morning broke, trying to catch glimpses of the transformation taking place inside. Social media was ablaze with speculation about what Elon Musk's involvement could mean for the future of healthcare, and #HospitalRevolution was trending nationwide. Inside, the emergency department's successful implementation had boosted confidence throughout the hospital. Staff members who had been hesitant about the changes were now approaching the transition team with ideas of their own. The morning meeting had to be moved to the hospital's largest auditorium to accommodate all the employees who wanted to attend. Musk began the meeting by sharing some unexpected news. Yesterday's emergency case caught the attention of several major medical institutions, he announced, his voice carrying across the packed auditorium. The speed and accuracy of our integrated AI diagnosis system has already sparked interest from hospitals across the country. But what's more important is what our own staff has to say. He gestured to Thompson, who stepped up to the podium. The administrator, who just days ago had nearly fired the world's richest man, now stood before his colleagues with renewed purpose. When I first started in healthcare administration, Thompson began, my mentor told me something I never forgot. The best hospitals are the ones that never stop learning. I thought I understood what that meant, but these past few days have taught me it means much more than I realized. As Thompson spoke, screens around the auditorium displayed real-time data from the previous day's operations. The new system had reduced average emergency room wait times by 45% and increased diagnostic accuracy by a significant margin. But the most striking statistic showed that nurses and doctors were now spending an average of 30% more time with their patients, thanks to the AI handling routine paperwork and preliminary assessments. The intensive care unit was next in line for the technological upgrade. Teams of technicians were already setting up new monitoring systems that could predict potential complications hours before they became critical. The ICU staff gathered around as the first systems came online, their initial skepticism giving way to cautious optimism as they saw the potential benefits for their patients. One ICU nurse, who had worked in critical care for over 3 decades, watched as the new monitoring system identified a subtle pattern in a patient's vital signs. In all my years, she said, shaking her head in amazement, I've never seen anything pick up on changes this subtle, this quickly. This could save so many lives. Meanwhile, the pediatric ward was undergoing its own transformation. The tech team had worked through the night to implement the child-friendly interfaces suggested the day before. Young patients were delighted to find their vital signs being monitored by animated characters, and the previously intimidating medical equipment had been cleverly disguised with colorful, engaging designs. A young patient's mother approached Thompson in the hallway, tears in her eyes. My son has been here for 3 weeks, she explained, and this is the first time I've seen him smile during a procedure. Whatever you're doing here, please don't stop. By midday, Musk had gathered a smaller group of department heads to discuss the next phase of implementation. The meeting was interrupted by an unexpected visit from a representative of the American Medical Association, who had flown in specifically to observe the changes taking place. The representative sat quietly in the corner, taking detailed notes as the group discussed the integration of AI and human expertise. In the hospital's research wing, a team of doctors had begun collaborating with the AI system to review years of patient data, looking for patterns that might have been missed. Within hours, they had identified several potential correlations that warranted further investigation. The excitement in the research department was palpable as they realized the possibilities this new technology opened up. Thompson spent the afternoon in a series of video conferences with hospital administrators from around the world, all eager to learn from Silicon Valley General's experience. He found himself repeatedly telling the story of the MAGA Hat incident, which had now become something of a legend in healthcare circles, a reminder that innovation can come from the most unexpected sources. As the day progressed, the hospital received its first VIP visitor, a prominent senator who served on the healthcare committee. The senator toured the facility, watching in amazement as the new systems smoothly coordinated patient care across departments. This, she declared to the accompanying press, could be the future of healthcare in America. Late in the afternoon, an emergency situation put the entire system to the test. A multi-car accident brought several critical patients to the emergency department simultaneously. The new AI system quickly coordinated resources, prioritized cases based on severity, and provided real-time updates to all relevant departments. The staff moved with unprecedented efficiency, their expertise enhanced by the technology supporting them. In the aftermath of the emergency, the ER staff gathered to debrief. The same doctor who had been skeptical about the AI system just days ago now spoke passionately about how it had helped them manage the crisis. "We've always been good at what we do," she said, "but this takes us to a whole new level." As evening approached, Musk called for another all-staff meeting. The auditorium filled quickly, the atmosphere notably different from the tension-filled gatherings of just a few days ago. "What you've accomplished here in just 4 days is remarkable," he began. "But it's not just about the technology. It's about how you've embraced change while maintaining the human touch that makes this hospital special." The day ended with an impromptu celebration in the hospital's courtyard. Someone had strung up lights, and food trucks had been invited to feed the staff. As people mingled and shared stories, there was a sense that they were part of something truly historic. The hospital that had nearly thrown out its owner was now leading a revolution in healthcare. Thompson stood at his usual spot by the window, watching the celebration below. On his desk lay preliminary plans for expanding the program to other hospitals, along with dozens of interview requests from major media outlets. The MAGA hat still sat on his desk, now framed in a clear case, a reminder that sometimes the best opportunities come disguised as our biggest mistakes. The 5th day at Silicon Valley General dawned with an unusual buzz of excitement. Local news stations had been reporting that several major tech companies' CEOs were scheduled to visit the hospital, drawn by the remarkable success stories that had emerged over the past few days. The hospital staff arrived early, eager to showcase how they'd adapted to the revolutionary changes. The hospital's main lobby had been transformed into a temporary presentation space, with interactive displays showing real-time data from various departments. The once sterile environment now pulsed with energy as staff members prepared to demonstrate their new integrated healthcare system to some of the tech industry's biggest names. Thompson started his day earlier than usual, reviewing the incredible statistics from the past few days. Emergency response times had improved by 50%, patient satisfaction scores had skyrocketed, and staff burnout reports had decreased significantly. He could hardly believe these numbers were from the same hospital he'd managed just a week ago. "Quite a difference from worrying about dress code violations, isn't it?" a familiar voice said from the doorway. Musk stood there, wearing the same MAGA hat that had caused such chaos just days before, but this time everyone who passed by just smiled and waved. The hat had become a symbol of the hospital's transformation, a reminder that change could come from unexpected places. The morning's first demonstration was scheduled for the emergency department. A group of visiting healthcare executives watched in amazement as the staff handled a simulated mass casualty event. The AI system coordinated patient flow, predicted resource needs, and even adjusted staffing recommendations in real time, all while the medical team focused on providing care. "The key difference," explained the ER chief, "is that we're not just treating emergencies faster, we're preventing them from becoming emergencies in the first place. The AI helps us spot potential complications before they become critical." The visitors nodded, furiously taking notes on their tablets. In the pediatric ward, a heartwarming scene unfolded as children interacted with their new medical interfaces. A young patient was showing his parents how his vital signs monitor transformed into a space adventure game when he took his medicine on time. The game elements had turned the usually dreaded medication routine into something the kids actually looked forward to. The ICU had become a model of predictive healthcare. The new monitoring systems had already prevented several potential crises by alerting staff to subtle changes in patient conditions hours before traditional monitoring would have detected any issues. One visitor from a major hospital chain stood speechless as they watched the system identify a potential cardiac event 20 minutes before any conventional symptoms appeared. By midday, the hospital cafeteria had become an unlikely networking hub. Tech executives mingled with nurses, doctors shared ideas with software developers, and everyone seemed energized by the possibilities. Thompson watched as a veteran nurse enthusiastically explained to a group of Silicon Valley VPs how the AI system had helped her provide better patient care. "You know what's really amazing," the nurse said, gesturing with her coffee cup. "Yesterday, I had time to sit with a worried family for 15 minutes, just holding their hands and explaining things. In the old days, I would have been buried in paperwork during those precious minutes." The afternoon brought an unexpected challenge that proved to be the perfect demonstration of the new system's capabilities. A power outage hit several blocks of the city, including other nearby medical facilities. Silicon Valley General's new systems immediately activated their backup protocols, while simultaneously coordinating with emergency services to accept patients from affected hospitals. Musk and Thompson stood in the command center, watching as their staff handled the situation with remarkable efficiency. The AI system automatically adjusted resource allocation, prioritized incoming transfers, and maintained seamless communication between departments. What could have been a crisis instead became a testament to the hospital's new capabilities. "This is why I bought this hospital," Musk said quietly to Thompson. "Not because it was the biggest or the most prestigious, but because I saw the potential in its people." Sometimes the best innovations happen when tradition and disruption collide, kind of like when a hospital administrator confronts a guy in a MAGA hat. As the power outage situation stabilized, news crews gathered outside, eager to report on how Silicon Valley General had handled the emergency. The hospital's response had demonstrated that the new technology wasn't just about efficiency, it was about being better prepared to help people when they needed it most. Late in the afternoon, a group of medical students arrived from a nearby university, their eyes wide as they toured the facility. They watched in awe as doctors and AI worked together, seamlessly combining human intuition with machine learning to provide enhanced patient care. For them, this wasn't just a hospital, it was a glimpse into their future careers. One of the students raised an interesting question during the tour, "But don't you worry about becoming too dependent on the technology?" The ICU nurse leading the tour smiled and replied, "The technology doesn't make decisions for us, it gives us better information to make our own decisions. That's the difference between replacement and enhancement." As the day drew to a close, Thompson received an unexpected call from the governor's office. The state was interested in using Silicon Valley General as a model for modernizing healthcare across the region. What had started as a simple dress code confrontation had sparked a revolution that was now spreading far beyond the hospital's walls. In the hospital's courtyard, staff members gathered for their now traditional end-of-day meeting. The sense of pride was palpable as they shared stories from the day. A respiratory therapist spoke about how the new system had helped him catch a subtle pattern in a patient's breathing that might have otherwise gone unnoticed. A pharmacy technician described how medication errors had dropped to near zero thanks to the AI verification system. The night shift arrived to find the hospital still buzzing with energy. As they received their handoff reports, they couldn't help but notice how much smoother the process had become. The AI system provided comprehensive updates, allowing the departing staff to focus on sharing the important personal details about each patient's care. Thompson ended his day as usual, standing by his office window. The MAGA hat in its display case caught the last rays of sunlight, casting a shadow that reminded him of how far they'd come in just 5 days. On his desk lay proposals from 5 major hospital systems wanting to implement similar changes, along with an invitation to speak at a prestigious healthcare innovation conference. As he prepared to leave for the night, Thompson noticed something new. The staff members weren't rushing to leave at the end of their shifts like they used to. Instead, they were lingering, engaged in animated discussions about new ideas and possibilities. The hospital had become more than a workplace, it had become an incubator for the future of healthcare. The 6th day at Silicon Valley General began with an unexpected visit from the state health department. Word of the hospital's transformation had reached state officials, who arrived unannounced to conduct a thorough evaluation of the new systems. Rather than causing panic, the surprise inspection was welcomed by the staff, who had grown confident in their revolutionized workplace. The lead inspector watched in amazement as the morning shift change occurred with unprecedented smoothness. Patient information updates, which once took precious minutes of verbal handoff, now transferred seamlessly between staff members through secure digital channels. The AI system provided real-time updates while the human teams focused on discussing the crucial personal aspects of patient care. "I've been doing inspections for 20 years, the lead inspector commented to Thompson, and I've never seen anything like this. How did you manage such a dramatic change in less than a week?" Thompson smiled, glancing at the framed MAGA hat on his wall. "Sometimes the best changes come from unexpected encounters," he replied. "But the real secret is having a staff willing to embrace innovation while maintaining their commitment to patient care." The morning's biggest challenge arrived in the form of a complex trauma case. A construction accident victim was brought in with multiple injuries, requiring coordination between several departments. The new system sprang into action, orchestrating a response that demonstrated the perfect balance between human expertise and technological support. Trauma surgeons received instant access to the patient's medical history, while the AI system analyzed incoming vital signs and suggested potential complications to watch for. The operating room was prepared before the patient even arrived, with necessary equipment and blood products ready based on the system's predictive analytics. In the hospital's research wing, a team of doctors and data scientists were making an exciting discovery. The AI system had identified a subtle correlation between certain medication combinations and recovery rates, something that might have taken years to notice through traditional research methods. The finding promised to improve treatment protocols for thousands of future patients. Musk arrived around midday, this time accompanied by a group of international healthcare officials. The hospital's success story had caught the attention of medical administrators worldwide, all eager to understand how such rapid transformation was possible. They gathered in the command center, watching the hospital systems work in real time. "The most remarkable thing," one of the international visitors observed, "is how natural it all looks. Your staff isn't fighting with the technology, they're dancing with it." The pediatric ward had become a particular point of pride. Children who once feared hospital visits now looked forward to interacting with their medical interfaces. A young patient was showing visitors how his treatment progress was displayed as a video game quest, with each successful procedure or medication earning him points toward virtual achievements. The child's doctor explained to the observers, "We're not just treating illnesses anymore, we're engaging patients in their own recovery. The kids understand their treatment plans better than ever because we're speaking their language." In the afternoon, the hospital hosted a virtual conference where staff members shared their experiences with medical professionals worldwide. The event had to be expanded to accommodate unexpected demand, with thousands of healthcare workers tuning in to learn from Silicon Valley General's transformation. Thompson found himself fielding questions from hospital administrators across the globe. "The key," he explained to his virtual audience, "is understanding that technology shouldn't replace human connection, it should enhance it. We're not trying to automate healthcare, we're trying to humanize it even more by giving our staff the tools they need to focus on what matters most." The ICU continued to showcase some of the most dramatic improvements. The predictive monitoring system had already prevented several potential crises, leading to significantly improved patient outcomes. Family members commented on how the transparent communication system helped them feel more connected to their loved one's care, with real-time updates available through secure channels. A touching moment occurred when an elderly patient's grandson, a software developer himself, asked to meet with the implementation team. "My grandmother has been in and out of hospitals for years," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "This is the first time I've felt completely confident about her care. You've created something extraordinary here." As the day progressed, the state health department inspectors continued their evaluation, digging deep into every aspect of the new systems. Their questions moved from skeptical scrutiny to genuine curiosity as they witnessed the benefits of the integrated approach. By late afternoon, they were discussing how to update state guidelines to accommodate and encourage similar innovations in other hospitals. The hospital's success had begun to influence areas beyond medical care. Local tech startups were reaching out, hoping to collaborate on new healthcare applications. Medical schools were requesting partnerships to help train the next generation of doctors in this new integrated approach to healthcare. In the research department, a breakthrough moment occurred when the AI system identified a potential new treatment protocol for a rare condition. The discovery, which combined elements from several existing treatments in an innovative way, demonstrated how technology could help medical professionals think outside traditional boundaries. The evening shift brought a surprise celebration as news arrived that Silicon Valley General had been selected for a prestigious Healthcare Innovation Award. Staff gathered in the cafeteria, sharing stories about how their initial fears had transformed into enthusiasm for the new way of working. A veteran nurse stood up to speak, her eyes glistening. "When all this started, I was counting down the days to retirement," she admitted. "Now, I'm excited to come to work each day. We're not just keeping up with the times, we're helping shape the future of healthcare." As the day wound down, Thompson sat in his office, reviewing the preliminary report from the state health department. The document was overwhelmingly positive, with several recommendations to use Silicon Valley General's model as a template for other hospitals. What had started as a potential career-ending confrontation had evolved into a blueprint for the future of healthcare. Musk stopped by Thompson's office one last time before leaving for the day. "You know," he said, picking up the framed MAGA hat, "sometimes the best innovations come from our biggest mistakes. This hat might have caused chaos last week, but it led to something remarkable." Looking out over the hospital grounds, Thompson could see staff members from different departments engaged in animated discussions, sharing ideas for further improvements. The parking lot was still full, hours after shifts had ended, as people stayed to participate in various innovation committees they had formed. The sun set on the sixth day of Silicon Valley General's transformation, casting long shadows across the hospital grounds. But inside, the energy showed no signs of dimming. The revolution that had started with a simple dress code violation was now blazing a trail for healthcare institutions worldwide, proving that sometimes the most significant changes begin with the smallest moments. The seventh day at Silicon Valley General marked a significant milestone as national media descended upon the hospital. Major networks had dispatched their top medical correspondents to cover what was being called the Silicon Valley Revolution in healthcare. The hospital's transformation had captured the public's imagination, offering a glimpse into what the future of medicine could look like. The day began with an unexpected announcement from Musk. Standing in the packed auditorium, he revealed that Silicon Valley General would become the flagship facility for a new healthcare initiative. "What we've achieved here in just a week isn't the end goal," he declared. "It's the blueprint for transforming healthcare across the country." Thompson, watching from the side of the stage, reflected on how different this morning felt from that fateful day when he'd confronted a man in a MAGA hat. The audience included representatives from major medical institutions, tech companies, and government agencies, all eager to learn from their experience. The morning's demonstrations focused on the hospital's most impressive achievement, the seamless integration of AI technology with human medical expertise. In the emergency department, staff showed how the new system had reduced critical decision-making time by 60% while improving accuracy rates significantly. A dramatic moment occurred when the AI system detected a potentially dangerous drug interaction before it happened. A patient had been admitted with incomplete medical records, but the system cross-referenced available data and flagged a potential conflict with their existing medications. The attending physician later explained that this kind of catch would have been much harder to make under the old system. The pediatric ward had become the hospital's emotional center. Children who once dreaded hospital stays were now actively engaged in their treatment plans through gamified medical interfaces. A young patient demonstrated how completing his physical therapy exercises earned him points in a virtual world, making recovery feel like an adventure rather than a burden. "We're not just treating symptoms anymore," the head of pediatrics explained to visiting doctors. "We're treating the whole child, making them active participants in their own recovery." The difference in patient compliance and emotional well-being has been remarkable. In the research department, excitement built around a new discovery. The AI system had identified a pattern in patient recovery rates that suggested a connection between treatment timing and effectiveness. This finding promised to revolutionize how certain conditions were treated, potentially improving outcomes for patients worldwide. The ICU continued to showcase the power of predictive healthcare. Visitors watched in amazement as the system identified subtle trends in patient vital signs, allowing staff to address potential complications before they became critical. Family members spoke emotionally about how the enhanced monitoring gave them peace of mind during difficult times. By midday, the hospital's cafeteria had transformed into an impromptu think tank. Medical professionals from various institutions shared ideas over lunch, while tech experts sketched out possibilities for future innovations on cafeteria napkins. The energy was infectious, with every conversation focused on how to build upon what Silicon Valley General had achieved. Thompson found himself in a lengthy discussion with healthcare policy experts who were already drafting recommendations for implementing similar systems nationwide. "The most important lesson," he explained, "is that technology should enhance human connection, not replace it. Our success came from finding the right balance." The afternoon brought an unexpected test of the system's capabilities when a multiple vehicle accident sent several critical patients to the emergency department simultaneously. News cameras rolled as the staff and AI worked in perfect synchronization, coordinating resources and providing care with remarkable efficiency. In the command center, Musk and Thompson watched the response unfold. "This is why we did all this," Musk said quietly. "Every minute saved, every error prevented, every improvement in care, it all adds up to lives saved and families kept whole." The hospital's success had begun to influence other sectors. Educational institutions were reaching out to discuss updating their medical training programs. Insurance companies were exploring how the improved efficiency and outcomes could affect healthcare costs. Government agencies were considering new guidelines to facilitate similar innovations elsewhere. A touching moment occurred when a former patient returned to thank the staff. They had been treated just days before the transformation began and had come back for a follow-up appointment. "The difference is incredible," they told the news cameras. "It feels like I'm in a completely different hospital, but with the same caring people." Late in the afternoon, the hospital hosted a virtual forum where staff members shared their experiences with healthcare professionals worldwide. The event drew participants from every continent, all eager to learn how Silicon Valley General had achieved such dramatic improvements in such a short time. The discussion touched on both successes and challenges. Staff members spoke honestly about the initial fears they'd overcome and the moments of doubt they'd pushed through. Their candor and enthusiasm helped others understand that while change might be difficult, the results could be transformative. As evening approached, Thompson gathered with department heads to review the week's data. The numbers were staggering: patient satisfaction had reached record levels, treatment outcomes had improved across all departments, and staff burnout rates had dropped significantly. But the most meaningful metrics were the personal stories of lives touched and improved by the changes. A group of medical students who had been observing throughout the day shared their thoughts during the evening wrap-up meeting. "Seeing this has completely changed how we think about our future careers," one said. "It's shown us that we don't have to choose between high-tech and high-touch healthcare, we can have both." The day ended with an impromptu gathering in the hospital's courtyard. Staff members from all shifts came together to share stories and celebrate their achievements. The mood was both triumphant and thoughtful as they reflected on how far they'd come in just 7 days. Thompson stood at his familiar window spot, watching the celebration below. The framed MAGA hat on his desk had acquired a new companion, a draft of a book deal offer from a major publisher, wanting to tell the story of Silicon Valley General's transformation. He smiled, thinking about how a moment of conflict had led to such unexpected positive change. As the night shift began their rounds, there was a palpable sense that while one chapter was ending, another was just beginning. Silicon Valley General had not just transformed itself, it had become a beacon of hope for healthcare institutions worldwide, proving that with the right combination of technology and humanity, revolutionary change was possible. The 7th day drew to a close with the hospital humming with activity, its halls filled with the promise of what tomorrow might bring. The revolution that had started with a confrontation over a hat had evolved into something far more significant, a new vision for the future of healthcare, where technology and human compassion worked hand in hand to improve lives. 1 week had passed since the MAGA hat incident that changed everything at Silicon Valley General. The morning began with a special ceremony in the hospital's newly renovated main lobby. Local officials, healthcare leaders, and media personalities gathered to witness what Elon Musk had dubbed the future of healthcare launch. The lobby had been transformed into a showcase of the hospital's achievements. Interactive displays highlighted the remarkable improvements in patient care, while real-time data streams showed the seamless coordination between departments. The once sterile space now pulsed with energy and possibility. Thompson stood at the podium, looking out over the assembled crowd. The past week felt like both a lifetime and a blur. "A week ago," he began, his voice carrying across the hushed audience, "I made what I thought was the biggest mistake of my career. I tried to throw the world's richest man out of his own hospital." Gentle laughter rippled through the crowd. "But what seemed like a catastrophic error turned into the catalyst for something extraordinary," he continued. "In just 7 days, we've revolutionized not just our hospital, but potentially the future of healthcare itself." Musk joined him on stage, wearing the now famous MAGA hat. "The best innovations often come from unexpected places," he added. "What happened here wasn't just about technology, it was about people being willing to embrace change while holding on to their fundamental commitment to caring for others." The morning's presentations showcased the hospital's most significant achievements. The emergency department demonstrated how their AI-integrated system had reduced critical response times by 70% while improving diagnostic accuracy. The pediatric ward showed how their gamified treatment interfaces had transformed children's hospital experiences from frightening to engaging. A particularly moving moment came when a former patient took the stage. They had been admitted during the transition period and experienced both the old and new systems. "The technology is impressive," they said, "but what really stands out is how it's given the staff more time to be human, to be present with patients when we need them most." The ICU presentation revealed that their predictive care system had prevented dozens of potential crises in just the first week. The lead ICU nurse explained how the AI helped them stay ahead of complications, allowing them to provide proactive rather than reactive care. "We're not just saving lives," she said, "we're preventing many situations where lives would need saving." By midday, the hospital had become the focal point of a nationwide healthcare discussion. News networks broadcast live from various departments, showing viewers firsthand how the integration of AI and human expertise was transforming patient care. Social media buzzed with hashtags like #HealthcareRevolution and #Silicon Valley General trending globally. The research department unveiled their latest breakthrough. The AI system had identified patterns in treatment responses that suggested new approaches to several chronic conditions. What might have taken years of traditional research, the lead researcher explained, we discovered in days thanks to the AI's ability to analyze vast amounts of data. The afternoon brought the announcement everyone had been waiting for. Musk revealed plans to expand the program to 50 hospitals across the country in the coming year. What we've achieved here at Silicon Valley General is just the beginning, he declared. This is the prototype for a complete transformation of healthcare delivery. Thompson found himself surrounded by hospital administrators eager to learn from his experience. The key, he told them, is understanding that technology should enhance human connection, not replace it. Every innovation we implemented was designed to give our staff more time for what matters most, patient care. The pediatric ward had become a symbol of the hospital's successful transformation. Children who once cried at the sight of medical equipment now engaged enthusiastically with their treatment plans through gamified interfaces. Parents shared stories of how the new approach had changed their children's entire perspective on healthcare. Late in the afternoon, the hospital staff gathered for a special celebration. The cafeteria was decorated with pictures showing the transformation over the past week. The before and after images told a powerful story of change, innovation, and progress. A veteran nurse stood up to share her thoughts. "I've been here for 30 years, she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I've seen many changes, but nothing like this. We're not just practicing medicine differently, we're reimagining what healthcare can be." The evening brought a surprise visit from several international healthcare ministers, who had flown in specifically to see the changes firsthand. They toured the facility, asking detailed questions about implementation and results. Their presence underscored the global implications of what had been achieved at Silicon Valley General. As the day drew to a close, Thompson and Musk stood in the command center, watching the hospital systems work in perfect harmony. The screen showed a complex dance of patient care, resource allocation, and predictive analytics, all working together to support the human staff in providing exceptional care. "You know," Musk said, adjusting the MAGA hat that had started it all, "sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from our biggest misunderstandings." He handed Thompson a small package. Inside was a replica of the hat, engraved with the words, "Make healthcare amazing again." The night shift arrived to find the hospital still buzzing with energy from the day's events. They had their own success stories to share, how the new systems had helped them provide better care during the traditionally challenging overnight hours, how they felt more supported and confident in their decision-making. As the final hour of the week approached, Thompson stood at his familiar window spot one last time. The framed MAGA hat on his wall had been joined by numerous awards, press clippings, and thank-you letters from patients. But what meant the most were the smiles he saw on the faces of staff and patients alike as he walked through the halls. The revolution that had begun with a confrontation over a hat had transformed into something far more significant, a new vision for healthcare that combined the best of human compassion with cutting-edge technology. Silicon Valley General had become more than just a hospital, it had become a blueprint for the future. As midnight approached, marking exactly 1 week since the transformation began, Thompson sent out a final memo to all staff, "Thank you for proving that the biggest challenges can lead to the greatest opportunities. Together, we haven't just changed a hospital, we've helped shape the future of healthcare. And we're just getting started." The lights of Silicon Valley General continued to shine brightly into the night, a beacon of hope and innovation in the healthcare landscape. The story that began with a misunderstanding had evolved into a powerful reminder that sometimes the most remarkable changes come from the most unexpected moments. The future of healthcare had arrived, and it had started with a simple red hat.